Legal Aid SA is an institution that is mandated in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa to ensure access to legal services to those who cannot afford. Legal Aid SA provide legal services in many cases, starting with criminal cases. We are an institution that has presence in all courts in South Africa, from the lowest to the highest court in the land, in the district courts, regional courts, high courts, Supreme Court of Appeal, as well as the Constitutional Court. In these courts, we provide legal representation in criminal matters, irrespective of the charges that an individual is facing. We have a model of delivery of legal aid services, which is dichotomized into three parts. The first is provision of legal services through in-house legal counsel, where we employ legal practitioners who then represent and render services on behalf of legal aid. We then have a model that is called Judicare model. This is a model where we outsource some of the legal services to private lawyers, wherein we then provide legal aid on behalf of our clients to these private lawyers, who will then receive remuneration from legal aid for services rendered. We have also the last model, which is also furthermore broken down into two parts: agency model as well as cooperation model. With agency, we realize as legal aid that there are instances where courts that we intend to cover are too far away from the service points, from our local offices. And we then decided to enlist the services of lawyers in private practice, who would then enter into an agreement with legal aid to provide legal services on behalf of legal aid to clients in those areas. We're also mindful of the fact that there might be some areas of the law which require some specialization of some sort. In this regard, legal aid enters into cooperation agreements with various institutions of higher learning. In the Free State Northwest Province, we have an agreement of this nature with the University of the Northwest in Potchefstroom campus, where this institution provides services on behalf of legal aid in matters involving children. Legal aid also provides services in civil matters. Now, what are civil matters? Civil matters are matters involving two parties who claim or institute action against each other. And the type of cases that we're referring to here, and which are included in the legal aid manual, are divorce cases, where particularly minor children are involved, eviction cases, as well as matters that generally involve children. We have a standing agreement with the Master of High Court throughout the country to administer estates involving minor children and where the value is below 250,000, the value of the estate. In such estates, legal aid is automatically appointed to represent these minor children, and thus letters of appointment or authority are then issued on behalf of legal aid to be in a position to render these services on behalf of minor children. In civil cases and in criminal cases, before one qualifies, there is a process that we call means test process. You would appreciate that legal aid services are services aimed at ensuring access to the most vulnerable groups in our society, which are the poorest of the poor, the minor children, as well as the elderly people. Now, we then have means tests to ensure that legal aid services are provided to the deserving cases, to those who cannot afford legal services at their own cost. In terms of the means test, we have a threshold of 7,400 rand after tax deduction. We only take into account the deduction in as far as tax is concerned. No further deductions will be taken into consideration. If after you have deducted tax from your income, you are left with 7,000 or below, you will qualify for legal aid. Particularly in criminal cases, that will be the end of assessment in terms of qualifying criteria. But in terms of civil cases that we are engaged in, where a person has a divorce case or maintenance case or public violence or protection order, domestic violence, harassment cases, eviction cases, labor law related cases, claims sounding in money where someone claims the other owes him a sum of money. In such cases, the first leg would be to do means test. Once we have determined a means test, and if the applicant is what we term an individual applicant, we will do means test in as far as that threshold of 7,400 is concerned. Should the applicant be an applicant from a household? Now, what do we mean by household? Household applicants are applicants where there is 2 or more people earning an income in that house. How do we determine the household? We determine the household by looking at the period or duration that these people who earn income jointly in a house stay. If you live in the same premises or house for a period of at least minimum 4 days in a week, we consider that to be a household. Thus, we will consider the joint income. In this regard, we take 8,000 as a threshold after tax deduction. We take the means test further by looking into Part B of such an exercise, qualifying exercise, which is where we determine your assets, the value of the assets. When we determine the value of the assets, we look at the movable as well as immovable property. With regards to movable property, we look at the value being 640,000. We look at 128,000 as being the threshold. If you exceed, then your application will be declined. In the event that your income exceed the threshold by 1,500 rand, the head of office where you are applying to enlist the services of legal aid has a discretion to grant or refuse your legal aid application, depending on the circumstances that you would have presented to the head of office when in support of your application for legal aid services. I wish to emphasize that legal aid services are free services. They are intended to benefit the poorest of the poor. In the event that anyone who is rendering legal aid services demand payment for such services from a client, a report has to be made to Hotline and Ethics of Legal Aid, which is at 0800 728 153, wherein the report has to be made and the person will be investigated. But as a matter of fact, the services rendered by Legal Aid SA are free to members of the community.
Today, it's about what I've been through bophelong. So, ke naka fumana thuso Legal Aid. Legal Aid Board is a honestly the lawyers whereby they help you to get out of the situation. So, at the moment, most of you are highly aware of this, and it's free. Through this case whereby I didn't know where to go, I didn't know but and then I got help. No, I can't close situation and get happy because so even though I had nothing, but my one. So now I get to say the problem is if we are going to the court, the case, we are frustrated. Am I going to be arrested or so whenever it's easy to a point whereby I just couldn't believe. But hey, case it was solved, and no I'm living a different life compared to the life I was living before. So yeah, to
the first time I got legal aid, to someone else undocumented. The problem that I had, it was a divorce. So where the private attorney by then my friend recommended me for legal aid. So I went there. When I went there, I service a professional kind of a service. Even into private. So when I went there, they were so helpful. They were so every step of the way process I divorce because I've been struggling for Nagotilele and I've been losing hope for this thing. But those guys want to see how whole got about a step by step. And one thing, per reporter now and then, the progress case guy and all of that. But really, I can't struggle anything, I can't struggle anything, and I can legal aid. So I'm very happy because my divorce only takes 6 months, guys. 6 months only divorce, and this was not only me, even in court, people who have been represented by Legal Aid Board.